Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Heidi. I've been a digital nomad full-time for about 4 years now, and I wanted to share with you guys today the 5 rookie mistakes that you don't want to be doing if you want to live this digital nomad lifestyle and really have the best experience and not feel burnt out and stressed and all the kind of like negative things that can potentially come up with living this kind of lifestyle. And I also just want to preface this with saying I'm obviously not trying to criticize anyone who might be doing these things. It's just these are things that I did when I was first starting out and were kind of like hard lessons. And then I later realized, wow, actually, if you just adjust how you're traveling and how you're doing things a little bit, then your experience is just going to be so much better. So let's dive in. Okay, so the number one rookie mistake I would recommend avoiding when being a digital nomad is traveling too quickly. So in our experience, after doing this for several years, we really found the sweet spot of this lifestyle is spending about 2 to 3 months in one place. And it was never our intention really to hop around too quickly, but this kind of came up when maybe we had spent a period of time somewhere and then we were looking for our next kind of temporary home base. And by temporary, I mean, yeah, within this kind of sweet spot of somewhere where we would feel excited to spend at least 1 month, ideally 2 to 3 months. And possibly even longer if the visa situation allows, right? It depends on what country you're visiting. But the problem happened when actually we weren't sure where to go next. And maybe there was some places we were interested in checking out, but we didn't really want to commit to a whole month. We weren't sure if we would like it. So maybe we would book a week somewhere and then we would go, and there would be all this pressure to decide, are we staying or leaving? And maybe we didn't like it enough to stay a month, and then you're trying out another 5 days somewhere else, and then afterwards, that wasn't quite great. Now let's hop to another country. And so you can already tell, just even me talking about it, it feels stressful. And when you're moving that quickly, it's really difficult to, first of all, get in a healthy routine or stay in a healthy routine. Also have a good balance between, doing your work and relaxing and just kind of being there, and also just having time to simply enjoy the place, right? So I guess this can be sometimes not avoided. It's happened to us where like we've arrived in a place and we actually booked a month and we're like, oh my God, we hate it. And we've just canceled our reservation and lost some money, and and so be it, right? It can't always be avoided. But I think the way to avoid this is to really do your research ahead of time, really watch all the YouTube videos and look at Google Maps and really think about, is this really somewhere where I would feel genuinely excited to spend a whole month or more? And if not, maybe it's better suited towards, just a trip for fun or something, because not all places are both. We've found in our experience. Some places are amazing to, be a tourist in and, just be there for a couple days and take photos and whatever. But for whatever reason, they're just not really great places to live longer term. And that's a subject for another video. But definitely, I would recommend avoiding that trap of kind of being in constant, booking Airbnbs and trains. And, you're basically just like in survival mode, trying to figure out the next step and having no time to actually just have a balance and live your life. So that's number one. All right. So the number two rookie mistake that I would recommend avoiding in this lifestyle is being in constant tourist mode. So this kind of goes along with the first point. This kind of happens naturally if you're only in a place for a few days. You're kind of like, I'm just gonna eat whatever yummy food is in my face, and you're probably not gonna really go grocery shopping or have a healthy routine like going to the gym and things like that. So it definitely happens naturally if you're moving too quickly. But it can also happen if you're in a place longer term, which was our experience. In especially certain places in Asia, because certain places you're just surrounded by, people that are backpacking and just taking a year off and just having fun and partying and all these things. So when you're going out and meeting people, you're meeting a lot of people that are kind of in this vibe, and it's very easy to slip away from, okay, I'm building my business and having a really great, stable, healthy lifestyle, to slipping into, okay, now I'm like going out and partying like every other day, or just like whatever, now I don't even have time to cook for myself. So I'm just going to like go out and grab whatever, greasy, deep fried falafel sandwich or, fried cheap noodles and whatever. And you can kind of see where this is going. You can very kind of quickly go into a downward, unhealthy spiral. So I think the main way to really avoid this from happening is to really stay grounded in your vision for yourself. So I'm not saying avoid those kind of places, because we love Asia. I spent almost 10 years in Asia. And Thailand is basically my number one favorite place in the whole world still. We also really loved Vietnam. And these places, they just happen to have a lot going on, a lot of, cool things going on, a lot of distractions. So when you're there, I found it really important to be like, even just setting kind of like monthly visions for yourself, or weekly, okay, this week, this is really how I want to feel. This is how I want to balance my time, and kind of mentally allocate, if it helps you, you could still keep the weekend system, on the weekend is where I'm going to go to that party, or, take the workshop or whatever. And during the week, more have like a stable routine, just like you would probably at a 9-to-5 regular job. But we found that this is something that is actually really important to self-regulate when you're freelancing and traveling and kind of making your own schedule. It's very easy to just kind of get pulled in all directions, if you're anything like me, and kind of let your flow and your goals fall to the wayside. And then all of a sudden realize, like, damn it, like, where did the last month go? Like, what have I been doing? Oh, I've been in tourist mode. So that is number 2. Don't fall into tourist mode. All right. Number 3 rookie mistake to avoid would be to set out on this lifestyle with no savings, no buffer, and just a very loose plan of, I'm sure everything will work out, right? I'm following my heart. I'm going to go for it. Everything's just going to work out. And I'm speaking 100% from personal experience here. That is literally what I did when I left China, where I was a full-time performer and singer. I had a really stable income. And I was kind of at a point where I was really detached from the idea of needing to really be organized and do kind of the hard work, because I did that in the beginning when I was building my business. And I was kind of in this place where I had built up my business to the point where the gigs and the jobs would just come to me, and I actually had to turn things down. So it was a little bit of a reality check when I moved to Thailand. I decided to take some time off working because I had some savings, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have a reset and just see what happens, right? I mean, in one sense, go myself for taking that risk, but also at the same time, now in retrospect, if I were to do it again, I would have really had a solid transition and backup plan for going into this kind of lifestyle. And what ended up happening was, for a while, I still had my singing jobs, and I was flying around Asia doing this in, China and Hong Kong and some in Thailand. But there came a point when then it was really like, now I'm kind of in transition between these things. I was wanting to live a more nomadic, location independent lifestyle, but I also wasn't like actively planning for that and creating new income streams and things like that. And also at the same time, as you can imagine, my savings buffer was going lower and lower, and that little, voice, that trusting voice of mine was like, it'll be okay. I'm sure the magic solution is just going to drop in. It didn't. It did not. And kind of at the last minute, I was scrambling like, oh shit, okay, now I have to do something. I have to figure out a different way of making income because I'm kind of just barely getting by. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So all of my singing work just completely stopped. And I was already starting to do a little bit of online English teaching at the time, but I was not taking it seriously at all. I was kind of like, well, I know I have, my monthly or bi-monthly gig coming in, so I don't really need to try that hard. Well, when that all stopped, I was like, oh shit, okay, now I have no buffer. And I had to really bust my ass doing the online English teaching thing. And I have a couple old videos from, I think, 3 years ago when I was still doing the online English teaching. And honestly, that was really hard. And that was a huge reality check that, okay, you want to follow your heart. You want to believe in the universe that things are working out. And you also want to use your logical planning. We need the smart side as well, right? We need the structure and we need the inspiration and the heart and the trusting the universe part. So if I could go back in time, I would have started my online business way before that transition happened. And not like in a way like this needs to start making money now, because actually that puts a lot of pressure on you and doesn't create a great vibe between you and your clients and your potential clients. So really the sweet spot is if you're thinking about really going digital nomad full time and you're still developing what you're going to be doing, I would say have a solid buffer, like minimum 6 months living expense, like set away, right? And whatever kind of you think your monthly expenses are going to be, like inflate that by another 30%, because you never know what's going to come up when you're traveling, maybe additional doctor's expenses. And, of course you'll have insurance, but sometimes you need to pay up front for things, or just, I don't know, your technology things break down and stuff, and you have unexpected expenses. So really, if I were to do everything all over again, this would be a really, really big point, would be to have a bigger buffer and to have a really solid transition plan from, okay, building your business from a place where you're not desperate, because that really just kind of like, you can imagine, the kind of emotional turmoil that causes. And on top of that, you're not really living in a stable place, you're trying to move around, and really you need that grounded sense of security, at the very least when it comes to your income. So that would be rookie mistake number 3, is to really take care of all this buffer, the finances, have a medium and long-term plan, and even a backup plan. And this is giving me some more ideas for another video. So I will talk a bit more about this in another video. So, all right, number 4 mistake not to make as a digital nomad. So this one would be to not cheap out on your living space. And I know this seems tempting to do, because usually when you're traveling and living this lifestyle, your rent is going to be the biggest expense. And in our experience, sometimes I realize you just don't have the budget for the nicer place. But then there's also kind of the urge to be like, oh, well, if we book this place, then we could save like this much, but maybe it's like really far out of the city center, or maybe it has some other elements that are just not really ideal, like maybe it doesn't have proper air conditioning or something like that. And when you compromise on these kind of things, it can really drag down your energy. And this was our experience. So there were some times at the beginning when I was still building my business. At the beginning, I was just teaching English because I needed some income like snappy. Now I have a completely different business. Haven't been teaching for a couple of years, but it kind of took a while to build my graphic design and web business up again from the ground. And this is actually what I was doing straight out of college a long time ago. So it's not like I was building it from zero, but it does take a while to, of course, grow your business back to a comfortable level where you feel abundant in your income. So when we were still in this kind of transition phase, or I was, my boyfriend wasn't, but I was feeling really tight on cash. We cheaped out on a few places, and I felt like in retrospect, I wish we hadn't done that. Like, we rented this apartment in Split, Croatia, and I think the difference wasn't even really that much. I think it was probably a couple $100s. But the place was freezing, and you could tell by the photos that it was an older building, and it only had one heater kind of in the common space. So you would like blast the heater. It was really loud, and one of the rooms would get really hot, and the rest of the house would be like freezing. And it was just like, damn it, if we had just paid a little bit more, we would have had a more modern apartment with like proper sealed windows and proper gas heating to where we would just feel comfortable all the time. And honestly, yeah, that really dragged down on my energy. At the time, I was teaching a lot of online classes, and I was like sitting there, in the room, kind of like, freezing at first and then getting really hot, and, now the thing's loud and I have to close the door, and it's just, it's just not worth it. And I think also, if you just have a really comfortable place, for most people, probably this is also going to be your part-time office. I don't know what your preference is as a digital nomad. I know a lot of people like to work from co-working places and cafes. But my boyfriend and I, we mostly love to work from home. So for us, it's really important to have two separate spaces, where we can each have our own kind of bubble and not be in each other's face all day long. And just having a place that's really well equipped and has nice, clean furniture and has a really nice host and all these things. These are really important things to just help you feel, again, these words, safe and grounded. And these are not normally things that I think people talk about when they talk about the digital nomad lifestyle, because it's all like, fun, and, you go here and explore. And I mean, this is usually what I'm talking about too on my Instagram. I'm only showing the positive sides, but the really tough part about it is really you don't have a stable home. So you really have to try a little bit extra hard to create that space for yourself, even if it's a temporary home. So some little things that we usually do is we'll bring a few of our own lighting elements. Like if you've been to Thailand, you have those ball lights that you could hang up. And I bring my picture of Quang Ying to kind of anchor me into my own space. And we bought this little, it's called like what is it called? Fireworks light bulb. So that we can have a nice nighttime lighting, or maybe we'll buy some candles and things like that to just make any space kind of really cozy in your own. And I really also think if you are not living this lifestyle yet and you're thinking about it, or you're wanting to improve your lifestyle, I would say I would really budget in something that you're going to feel like excited to be there and excited to call home. So, all right. So the fifth mistake to avoid, and this is going to sound a bit contradictory to the first couple points, which was don't travel too quickly or don't be in tourist mode. But this is kind of the other side of the coin to that conversation, which is you don't also want to overcommit to a place or put overly huge expectations on a place. Because no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, and no matter how beautiful the pictures look and people's Instagram photos and videos and things like that, nothing is going to really tell you how you're going to feel in those places. And nothing's really going to tell you how you're going to vibe with that place. And this has happened to us a bunch of times. You know, we watch people's YouTube videos and they're like so passionate about a place and they're like, this place is amazing, everything's great quality. They also don't mention any of the negative parts about those places. And then you get there and you're like, what the hell? Like, were we even talking about the same place? Or, you know, where is this paradise that you've been talking about? Does it exist? Or just people have very different feelings and different opinions. So it could be kind of a little bit of both of those elements. So we had this experience recently. I don't want to say actually there was too much positive information. We were just kind of looking for an alternative place to spend a few months while it was still cold in the rest of Europe. And we had heard a little bit about Albania as an option for digital nomads. And we saw some videos about Sarande and Vlora, like, oh, Riviera of Albania, you know, whatever. And of course, on paper, it looked pretty interesting. They had like a really nice long place to go biking and cycling and walking, and apartment options were great, really nice looking places for cheap. We could tell on paper that the restaurant situation didn't look too interesting. We knew because we were going there kind of at the end of winter, probably there wouldn't be that much going on. But for us, those were all okay risks. We were like, well, you know, we're still gonna, you know, get bicycles and be active in our own way and just go for long walks along the beach, have our really nice sea view apartment, right? And we got there and we just did not like the vibe. I mean, it was just a full body no. You know what I mean? For various reasons. But I think partly it was a vibe thing, partly there was a lot of pollution that no one mentioned in their videos, and a lot of kind of trash burning all around the cities and the countryside. And we were just like, no. We just left Asia because of burning season. That's also another subject for a different video, where they burn the fields and the air quality just goes to shit, you know, basically. So we were looking for clean air and we thought, you know, Vlora, seaside, yeah, not so fresh. So even though we watched some videos, people were super positive about it. We even messaged some people on YouTube that wrote us back and they said, yeah, it's great here. But the thing is, like, not everyone has the same feeling as you and the same things that they're looking for. So my recommendation would be, I would say maximum a month if you're pretty sure, if you're going on like a personal recommendation or this is a place you've been before, I would say book maximum a month. And if you can, book something that's a little bit flexible on Airbnb. Of course, that's not always an option, right? But there's some places that will let you still get 50% back of the nights you didn't use within a certain time period or something like that, right? So luckily we had booked something like that in Vlora. So we got, I think, 50% back from our Airbnb booking that we canceled immediately. And I think if it's kind of a wild card place, if it's somewhere where there's not a lot of content about, maybe you don't have any friends that have personally been there, I would say that is kind of a situation where maybe you would want to schedule some scouting time. So I would say this is kind of different than your normal digital nomad lifestyle, where we would recommend really having a more like stable time period in each place. But then I think there's also this element of course, you're going to want to scout out new places and wild cards and go to places that like not many people are talking about, right? In this digital nomad world. And I think that's part of the exciting part about it, is also going to undiscovered places, right? So I think if I were to go back to that experience again, I think we would be smarter about it and say, okay, number one, there wasn't so much information about it. Actually, some of the photos we looked at from Vlora did look hazy, and we just kind of ignored that. So trust your intuition more. And also, we put a bit too much expectation on it. We were thinking, wishful thinking. We're like, this would be such an easy place to have a European home base, right? And stay visa-free as Americans for a year. And I think maybe some other nationalities as well. You can just stay a really long time and, you know, potentially get a car and then just hop around Europe, right? We were already like having all of these expectations. and really wanting to like it and kind of not looking at it very objectively, and also giving it enough flexibility to where, okay, if we don't like it, what's our backup plan, right? And luckily, Albania did have an amazing taxi service. So we had an electric car come and pick us up and took us all the way to Montenegro that same day, because we were just like, we don't like it here, we want to leave. So luckily we were able to get out of it pretty quickly without having lost too much money or anything like that. But it could have been worse, right? We could have lost our entire month's rent. And some countries, maybe it's not so easy to get a cheap taxi just like straight to the next country. So definitely have a backup plan, especially if you're going to somewhere that's a little bit of a wild card, and kind of budgeting for that also in your work situation, of course, because I think also for me at that time, I was working on a website project and I was like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. We don't even know where we're going to be next week. And I told my client I was going to have this done. And of course, you know, people are understanding, things come up, but it's like, I don't want to be the kind of service provider that is like, you know, often in crisis and then having to explain that to the people I work with. So best to just avoid that rookie mistake altogether, and don't also overcommit to a place when it is a bit of a wild card. So all right, so thanks for watching, guys. And if you are a digital nomad and you have some other rookie mistakes that you want to share with people, please add it in the comments below, and we can help each other out in creating a really elevated, awesome, smooth digital nomad experience, and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes that we all made in the beginning. All right, see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.